Hi everyone, this is Mindy Eggen and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be creating some mixed media backgrounds. I had a couple ideas that I wanted to try out and I thought this would be a great time to do it. Also incorporating some embossing folders, and I have just a few different things that I'll be using today. Of course, you can always use just one item or two, or if you want to look through your stash and see if you have something similar. Now, a few of the main products that I will be using is the Falling Leaves embossing folder. This is a 3D embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp. I'm trying to get in my fall products before fall is gone. I also have the Thankful and Grateful stamp set, and then the Thank You Text background stamp. I will be starting by doing my background stamping first. So since this is a red rubber stamp, I removed the foam insert from my Misti tool. I lined that background stamp up and picked it up with the door of the Misti. Now I have some Hammermill Cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I added some repositionable tape to the back, and then I'm really taking my time to try and line up the text with the bottom edge of my cardstock, because this is one we really don't want to get crooked. Once I feel I have it lined up pretty straight, I can close that backwards so that way the repositionable tape is stuck to the bottom of my Misti. Now I'm going to ink up this text with Archival ink, and I believe this was ground espresso. I really did not want my text to fade too much in the background once I start adding my layers of media to it. Now you're going to see that it is pretty splotchy. I did not get real precise about stamping, and I meant to do that. So I'm going to bring in another piece of cardstock. I'm going to try and line that up as straight as I can. And I'm going to do one more background. Of course, you can see here I really was haphazardly inking up my background, which is going to give me an even more inconsistent look to the background. With mixed media, that is absolutely okay. For the next layer of my backgrounds, I'm going to be doing some ink blending. So I have some fall colors picked from Gina K Designs. This is Honey Mustard, Fresh Asparagus, and Faded Brick. I'm going to start with my lightest color first, which is the Honey Mustard. I'm taking a flat blending brush and I'm going to apply that ink in just kind of certain parts of the cardstock. Didn't really matter where. Next, I'm going to come in with Fresh Asparagus. I'm going to fill in some of those white areas. I can also overlap with that Honey Mustard. With the fall colors and a fall background, I really don't care if I make mud because I think that just adds to the fall vibes of the card. Next, I'm going to bring in the Faded Brick. Once again, kind of just filling in any leftover areas I left of the white cardstock so that it really shows a true red or that dark red, and also overlapping some of the green and yellow. Again, you do not have to be perfect with your ink blending, and I think a mixed media type of background is really great if you're learning blending brushes or learning how to ink blend, because you really don't have to worry about getting your colors to truly blend or smooth out in getting a smooth result. So you can see mine is really blotchy. I'm going to take that, set it off on the side, and before I emboss it, I wanted to try something. This is something that I wanted to experiment with. So I have the embossing folder here. The left-hand side is the raised portion where I'm going to put my cardstock. The right-hand side, I am applying some metallic gold pigment ink with a rubber brayer, and then I'll bring in my cardstock, place it down on the side of the embossing folder that's pushed up, and then I'm going to close this and run this through my die cut machine. So what it's going to do is take that metallic pigment ink and press it down into the not embossed areas of the cardstock. It's going to fill in the background. And I thought that turned out really cool. I love the shine of that. I'm going to go ahead and dry it because what happened when I did it is I felt like I lost my leaves a little bit. So I want to enhance that. I really want the leaves to stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to go back over the colors that I had used for ink blending and apply that over those raised areas. This is Faded Brick, kind of going over the raised areas of the leaves. I'm going to bring in the Fresh Asparagus. I really didn't bother with the Honey Mustard because I thought that would kind of get lost. So I'm just going to come over them with that flat blending brush, which is going to help make those leaves pop off of the background a little bit more. I wanted to intensify this a little bit, so I'm going to bring in chocolate truffle. And this is a really nice dark brown. I'm going to go all the way around the outer edges of my card front and also onto the leaves a little bit to help make them pop even more. I'm all about dramatic card fronts when it comes to my fall backgrounds. I don't even know if I've created a subtle background when it comes to fall colors. So that's a look at the background I have so far. Right now, I think we have about 2-3 layers going on right now of different techniques. Next, I'm going to bring in I think this was the Texture Paste Sparkle. And I'm picking some up just right off of the lid, using my finger, kind of dabbing off on a baby wipe, and I'm going to rub my finger all over the leaves. This is something I could also maybe do with gold pastes, things like that. I will do some different things later on, but this is just going to add a sparkle to my leaves. It will dry translucent, so I will just rub my finger over all of those leaves. Now you can't see it real well right now, but I'm going to give it some time to dry. In the meantime, after it has been dried, I could not resist adding flicks. I have to add my splatters. So this is a Vintage Photo Distress Spray Stain that I'm picking up with a paintbrush. I'm also going to bring in some Iridescent Shimmer Spray and splatter that. You can see I am just really having a crafty session here. It's different things I wanted to try, see how they react to each other, see how they look. I'll set that background on the side and work on another background. And this one I really was experimenting with colors. I'm bringing in Concord and Ninth inks. This time I have Honeycomb, Tidepool, and Dragonfruit, which you may not think can be fall colors, but I don't know. I think this one might be my favorite. Now, the only thing I would suggest is make sure you leave some nice white space on here, because when Tidepool overlaps with that honeycomb, you're going to get more of a green, or I guess almost a patina type of look. So if you really want to have a true tide pool, make sure you leave yourself some white space. And obviously I am not worried about how my ink blending looks. You can see I am leaving marks from my blending brush, and that is totally fine. Once I have that background blended, I'm going to put this in that Falling Leaves embossing folder and run that through the die cut machine to emboss the fall images. Now you're going to see here, you really can't see where the leaves are. It's very hard to tell. So again, I'm going to go back over it to enhance those leaves using the same colors. But Tidepool really wasn't showing up. So I went over and grabbed Juniper, and that one really makes those leaves pop. I'll also grab back in the Dragonfruit, and you're going to see once the Dragonfruit starts overlapping with some of those colors, you're going to get a very unique type of purple, which I think does play well into the fall colors. Of course, I wanted to step it up, really add some contrast to this. So I brought in that chocolate truffle once again, going around the outer edges, and I think this helps pull in the fall vibe. So it's a very unique color combination, but also has that hint of fall. In a previous video, I have used Hero Wax to put over my embossed images. This time I'm bringing in Hero Pearls, and this is in the gold. It is more of a liquid form than the Hero Wax is, and I just put some on a Post-it note, picked a little bit up with my fingertip and brushed that over all of those embossed leaves. So either one works really well. It's going to give me some beautiful gold shine onto this, and really that embossed area really picks up the gold. And again, at any point, if you are recreating this card, you can leave things out. You don't have to do everything that I did to the background. These are just different things I wanted to experiment with. Now, once again, I'm going to be doing splatters. This time, I am bringing in this Glittering Gold Glimmer Mist from Gina K Designs. It's brand new. I wanted to see how this would look on the background. So I made sure to shake it up. You have to shake them up really well. And I'm spraying that over the entire background. Now, here, it looks really awesome, but as it dries, that glittering gold kind of took over my center a little bit. I don't mind it on the edges, but in the center, it kind of took over, and I couldn't really, you could see here, it kind of took over the background a little bit. So since it was not completely dry just yet, I did use the heat tool, but it wasn't completely dry. I'm going to wipe a little bit of that off. So that's going to leave the open, or the kind of the center of the card front. And then I still have that glittering gold around the edges and my embossed areas. So that was something just really fun and new to try out. Now I'm going to be adding splatters to this. I wanted to kind of brighten this up a little bit. So I have some white acrylic paint that I'm going to splatter onto the background, and I love how it pops off of this dramatic color combination. Since I had this white paint out, I'm going to go ahead and just add splatters to my other card front because, well, why not? I already have it out and I want to be able to use up what I had on my work surface. So these are the backgrounds. I love how they turned out. I'm going to set them off on the side and work on my sentiments. The set that I'm going to be using is Thankful and Grateful from Simon Says Stamp. It is a beautiful set, and this does not have to be fall. These are just great thank you cards. So I brought in a piece of heavyweight cardstock. I'm going to prep it with an anti-static powder tool, and I have both Thankful and Grateful, since I'm making 2 cards, that I'm going to ink up in embossing ink. I'm using Versamark ink today, but any type of embossing ink would work. And I'm going to stamp that down. Now, since it is clear ink on white cardstock, I'm just going to make sure that my cardstock is positioned in that same spot, ink it up again and stamp that down to make sure I'm getting a really good impression. Then I'm going to bring in some, I think this was called antique gold or like a vintage gold embossing powder. I will have it linked down below in the video description too. So I'm sprinkling that on, tapping off my excess. I'm going to make sure my heat tool is nice and hot, and then I can bring it over and melt the embossing powder. Now, what I like to try, especially when it comes to my mixed media backgrounds, I really want my sentiments to stand out. So I am going to double heat emboss this. So I brought it back to my Misti since I hadn't moved anything, and I'm going to ink it up and stamp it again over my embossed area. I'll bring that over, sprinkle on that same embossing powder. I think it would also be really cool to mix the antique gold with a regular gold embossing powder. I think that would be really fun too. Then melt that, and I'm going to bring this up close and I'm going to try and show you what this looks like. Double heat embossing is really beautiful. It adds just a little bit of dimension. It's a little thicker. It is just a gorgeous look, and I love how these came out. They were perfect. Everything stayed lined up perfect. So I will use the coordinating dies to die cut these 2 out. Now the rest of the stamping and die cutting I did off screen, but what I ended up doing is I die cut out the Grateful and Thankful numerous times from white cardstock and layered it together with liquid glue to build up that dimension. And I also stamped out some smaller sentiments, trimmed them out with the sentiment label die from Simon Says Stamp, and added them underneath those larger greetings. I then finished off both cards with some gold metallic pearls. So this was a very fun and therapeutic crafting session for me. I hope some of these give you ideas on what you can use in your mixed media background cards. You don't have to use every product that I used, but since I have these products on hand, I really just wanted to play and see what they looked like together and layered up. I hope you found this video inspirational, and if you haven't given mixed media a try yet, I do highly recommend it. All of my supplies will be listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. Thanks so much for joining me today. See you soon.